All right. Michael Barenboim, thank you very much for joining me. Happy to have you here. If it's okay, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So my name is Michael Barenboim. I'm a violinist, a musician, and a professor for violin and chamber music at the Barenboim-Said Academy. And I'm here and mostly known in the last 2 years for kind of my activism and speaking out against the genocide in Gaza and the general kind of oppression of Palestinians.
So you are in Berlin, which is no small detail. I mean, as I am in Germany, mainly because your voice has become also very important in terms of not just the question of Palestine, but the question of Palestine in Germany, which has been really quite a difficult place to actually put the Palestinian position, especially as a Jew, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I don't think it actually matters as a what. The main issue is that the question of Palestine and Palestinians as a people, their existence goes kind of against this the narrative of Germany making up for its past evils and its past crimes by unconditionally supporting what they think of as the collective Jew, which is the state of Israel. And the existence of Palestinians is the existence of the crime of ethnic cleansing and the Nakba of 1948 until today. So that existence goes against this narrative because it means that we in Germany are not supporting what is good or what is unconditionally good, but it comes with supporting directly or indirectly crimes such as ethnic cleansing, apartheid, now genocide. So I think that's why it's very difficult to speak out in Germany. It's not difficult, particularly as a Jew. It's as difficult as a Jew as anyone else. It's actually the most difficult for Palestinians themselves. But I think that's the reason.
I have a bit of the experience. I mean, I don't want to stray too far, and I most certainly think that being an Arab in Germany is particularly tough. But I do get the sense, seeing the reaction to people like you, the reaction to Jewish Voices for Peace, people like Iris Hafed, I mean, to myself, that there is a particular, I mean, to Deborah Feldman as well, that there is a particular concern that the German body politics and public sphere has when it encounters Jews that do not go along with the German story of what a good Jew, essentially a Zionist, which can extend the kosher certificate to Germany. When one presents that kind of voice, Germany does not seem to take it well.
Well, I mean, that's because it's not really about this. I think when we think of the fight against anti-Semitism, the way it's framed in Germany, it really has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, and it certainly has nothing to do with Jews. It has everything to do with kind of justifying and making possible this complicity in these crimes, like the crime of genocide now, and covering that with this framework, so that dissent is less likely to happen, is more difficult to organize. And you can see that in terms of just sheer number of people that go on the streets in support of Palestinians. If you look at places like London or Amsterdam, and then you look at a place like Berlin, which has, let's not forget, the largest Palestinian community in Europe, this is clearly something that is made to be as small as it possibly can. That is done with open repression, like police violence, for example, that we see in the demonstrations almost daily. It's also done by campaigns, smear campaigns, like like you mentioned, Deborah Feldman, for example, has suffered. It's done by external pressure, internal pressure. There's many different routes, but it leads to people not being as vocal about what they believe as they could and should be, and that can affect, of course, Jews like you, and it won't be. The irony is not noticed by those that do the suppression, because they don't see this as being contradictory to supporting Jewish life the way it's always framed. The kind of
It's really quite remarkable. For me, remains incomprehensible. I mean, the sort of, I mean, I grew up in Argentina, and I spent many years in the U.S., particularly in New York. So, if there is some association that I have with the idea of Judaism in the public sphere, is really with this sort of progressivism, sometimes quite conservative. I consider myself quite conservative, but most certainly very strong progressive credentials. So to see voices like Deborah Feldman kind of smeared and pushed out of the public sphere, I mean, to me, it's really just heart-stopping kind of thing. I wanted to ask you. I mean, you grew up here, and you just referred to the issue of police repression. What do you make of it? I mean, do you see something is it something new to you? I mean, do you see something here that is unprecedented, the way I guess somebody like me would see it?
But I mean, I don't know if it's really unprecedented. I think that if you actually ask the victims of this kind of police violence, you'll find that they will tell you that perhaps it's gotten worse, but it's not come out of nowhere. So there is a sense. I think, I mean, if I understood these people correctly, there is a sense that this is, quote unquote, merely an escalation and not an actual new thing. But it, of course, leads to different consequences that we are seeing right in front of us. Namely, that the German society doesn't take this information in at all. So there's no sense that this bothers anyone that is not directly affected by it, or that doesn't follow kind of this. I mean,
some of the images had been absolutely scandalous. We have seen police punch people in the face, and I mean, take away like old, pensioners. And there seems to be, as far as I can tell, there seems to be absolutely no political reaction, like none.
No, there isn't. And when you read about it in most mainstream media, you'll read basically an extended police report. So you'll read an article that speaks from the point of view of the police, which is exactly not what a newspaper article that has other media article that has the idea of having a critical kind of questioning stance, is exactly not what you want to read. If I want to read the police report, I will read the police report. You see what I mean? But that's what's then in most mainstream media articles. You will read an extended police report, and so most people that consume this media will not even have seen or heard of these really scandalous actions. You mentioned the kind of beating of pensioners, just people just being punched in the face, people being dragged on the floor. I mean, all of this, you and I have seen all these images in the last months and years. But for most of the German public, even if they've seen it and even if they know about it, they don't feel that it concerns them. And then when it does concern them, like what we saw happen to demonstrators that were trying to block a AfD meeting, then when it hits those demonstrators and it suddenly affects German society, then people are surprised by it. But of course, if you followed what the police does to dissenting opposition voices, like pro-Palestinian demonstrations, then this doesn't surprise you at all.
There is
but that's the problem. That's the problem when you have this kind of creeping, and not so creeping anymore, kind of fascistic gesture. It only works because most of society doesn't consider it as their problem, or doesn't consider it as something that they have to deal with. And then when it gains momentum and it gains power and it does affect them, it's too late. And this is exactly where we are now. It's basically, if not too late, it's really like just the last step that can be taken now. And I always hope that most German society will wake up to this, but I don't see why they would if they haven't
I mean,
until now.
the thing that I find remarkable is that, as a matter of fact, I mean, not only you have, now I think a very established pattern of police violence, to the extent that I think that a study that was published by Civicus either today or in the last 2 days puts German political freedom at the level of Hungary under Orban, which is absolutely remarkable. But I think that to me remains simply breathtaking, the fact that there is no political reaction, because one can say, okay, well, people might come out to the street the way that they actually went out to protest the creation of, or the recreation of the youth wing of the far right of the AfD. People might go out if there is some sort of episode. I mean, who knows what, something to do with the environment. But the fact is that we had even senators that were punched in the face by the police in the demonstrations, and there was absolutely no reaction. There is no political, not even a beep, right?
Yeah, that I mean, in the case of the parliamentarian that got punched in the face, that was a pro-Palestine demonstration. So of course, it was where we come back to kind of Germany as the way it sees itself. There is this this idea of a liberal democracy with this very liberal constitution, these basic laws, very liberal and very insistent on aligning with international law. You have that side, and then you have this side, and this side is justified by this kind of warped idea of supporting Israel at whatever cost may come, because we have to do good by our past evils.
I mean, even at the cost
that means if you think this to the end, it justifies absolutely anything. It justifies extreme police violence. It justifies kind of smear campaigns the way we've seen. It also justifies outright censorship, the way we've seen, countless events canceled left, right, and center. Palestinians, Jews, Germans, anyone. It almost doesn't matter who is affected, because it's just the sheer number. And we've also seen instances of actual political pressure applied on venues, on promoters to cancel certain events, on universities. Most specifically, now we had in Munich another episode like this. This all goes against this whole kind of idea of this liberal democracy, the way Germany sees itself, but it's justified by these things. So
I mean, the remarkable thing is, besides sort of all the particular events, which are clearly incredible to see. I mean, the Francesca Albanese story at the university, the Munich University, the platforming, people like Nancy Fraser and people. I mean, it just keeps going. But I think that perhaps, I mean, your point about liberal democracy is the salient one, right? I mean, it's not only the willingness to put into action essentially repressive mechanisms, but the willingness to dismantle the German democratic post-war project, right? Because these things are essential. They're actually part of the fundamental law. They're part of essentially the way that Germany comes into the European Union. These are European rights as well.
Yes, but I mean, we also see beyond Germany, we also see a willingness in Europe to kind of throw these principles overboard. I mean, all the European states are in various ways breaking their own laws, breaking international law, and we see it on other topics, like the way that asylum seekers are treated on European borders. I mean, it could go on and on and on. But the fact of the matter is, Germany has in its constitution an article that forces national law to be adapted to international law. It's Article 25, I think. And it's breaking that every day. So if a state can break its own basic laws, its own constitution, then all bets are off. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm continue to be flabbergasted by the fact that we have not found, and I, of course, I count myself in collectively as somebody who lives here and who has children here and who actively participates in the political conversation, and somebody who has been dragged into court for using an expression that I think it's completely tied to the way in which I understand Judaism, but obviously in the context of Gaza. I was wondering, I mean, the East Western Divan Orchestra, and so your family name is related to crossing the bridge, in a sense. I mean, being able to engage in this conversation, even at times when it was very unpopular. I mean, I always thought of the creation of the East Western, Western Divan Orchestra, something that had a lot to do with a view that was, a Judaism really that was able to bridge very large cultural spaces. How do you think that in all these years, I mean, because to a large degree, I think that the cultural project is one that has helped to bridge divides, right? I mean, I think in Berlin, you still see it. You go to demonstrations and you see sort of, Jewish musicians playing with Palestinian musicians. You see sort of a collective that has built itself around issues that are not just a political one. How do you see the shift over all of these years? I mean, having followed it from the first row, in the way that this kind of position or this kind of activity is received in Germany?
Well, I mean, it's a very vast question. I mean,
Sorry.
the way to take the end of it first, the way it's received in Germany. I mean, I think Germany, again, it's a lot about self-image. Germany prides itself in bringing people together. That's something that people in Germany, I mean, actually, like not just the state, but actually people in Germany really love seeing that. They love that this idea that people out in
We're
that are in
peacemakers.
conflict they see themselves in that way, kind of as always a positive kind of influence on the international arena. But we have to be, I mean, we have to be honest. Of course, these very, I mean, our project exists since 1999, created by Edward Said and my father, with a very specific idea in mind. I mean, it's not just let's throw them, with their instruments, let's throw them together and let's see what happens. That's doesn't do anything. I mean,
Right.
It doesn't. It's not that it doesn't do anything, but it doesn't do what it's meant to do. The idea was different. There was an idea of also engaging people with these difficult topics and engaging them, challenging their beliefs that they held until the moment they stepped foot into the place. And in my view, this is my view, my personal view. I think we have to insist with projects like this. We have to insist because this is now the quote unquote radical position. We have to insist on aligning with international law. We have to insist on aligning with human rights issues, because in the end, this is, it's very nice that people cooperate. There's nothing wrong with people cooperate. People should cooperate, but they should cooperate in view of achieving certain goals, achieving, justice, human rights that apply to, everyone, in this particular case to Palestinians, ending genocide, ending apartheid. It should be, you know what I mean. It only makes sense if we are trying to resist a specific kind of a specific kind of, I don't know how to say this, but we're trying to resist something together, right? That's how this makes.
I think that there is, if you'll permit me, I mean, I think that this is at least my perception when I think of you guys, and I think both of the work of Said and your father, and when I think about the way that what I have seen from you over the last 2 years, is that in a way it represents mostly what I think things like Eurovision as a cultural contraption seeks to be, and it's very clearly not. So I think that in a way, the reason why I was asking you this is because I think that Eurovision has really become a way to whitewash what is an absolute catastrophe. And it's done under the rubric that one could very well confuse. Say, well, we're just putting these people together and then everything is fine. And it's very clear that everything is not fine, that we are still seeing a genocide, that we're seeing children being killed. And I think that the force of my question is that I have the sense that the more complicated this has become for the Germans to grapple with, the more complicated it has been to deal with the orchestra. Because it's something that you represent, somebody that is very committed to justice, to law.
Well, yes and no. So I mean, I can only speak for myself here. I can't speak for the institution because the Divan Orchestra also now has its own committee and its own kind of internal organization that can speak on behalf of the musicians. I can only speak on my own behalf. Yeah, because you mentioned Eurovision. I mean, Eurovision. The danger of this kind of completely vague, just kind of let's all this. It's kind of it's falling apart in front of our eyes now. Some countries are boycotting it. It's I don't know what's going to happen. When is it? I don't. Is it in May? Or I think it's in May.
Yeah, I think 2026 somewhere.
I'm not an expert on Eurovision, really.
I'm not even public, but
no, but we're seeing it. I mean, doesn't it fall apart if already four countries boycotting it?
Four countries, and now Poland is talking about it, and
exactly. Four countries and rising. But, I mean, at some point, it also you have to talk about is this really going to work? I don't know. I don't know, but but in terms of it, I think that's important. It's important to hold people accountable in terms of are they really standing for international law and for justice, or are they not? If they're not, that's yeah. I mean, then it's very hard to talk any more about it because. We have very clear guidelines here that bind all of us collectively, and even individually. Anyone can, of course, do whatever they want, but in a way, it also binds individuals in how we act towards a state that is committing genocide and the crime of apartheid. So, I mean,
how do you see? How do you see the current state of German culture? I mean, in terms of, we talk about censorship and the platforming, and I think that very often seems quite easy to dismiss. It's like, well, these are just a couple of people, but I do have the feeling, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, that a lot of this deplatforming, cancellations, people being chastised, people being slandered, has had a pretty major effect in terms of, it has had a chilling effect. And it has actually forced many people to essentially reconsider coming to Germany at all, either to perform or to present their work or to speak openly.
Mm. Yeah. This is clearly. I mean, the chilling effect is very visible. In many ways, in the way that you said that there's many people that avoid coming here at all, and when they come here they stay as shortly as they can and then they leave. You have a lot of that, of course. You also have a lot of the what you call the chilling effect, which is very accurate. So you have a lot of people that are here, or even not here, but that come here and that know of this whole kind of Staatsräson construct that creates all this repression. And then they just think twice before they say anything, and that's of course the wanted outcome. That's not an unwanted outcome. That's exactly what this is supposed to achieve. I mean, it's not just one or two. We know this is not just 1, 2, 3 individual cases. We know this because there are databases that collect this information. The Archive of Silence. They now even have a new website, so even people that are not on Instagram can actually access their website and look through the list of. They document all the canceled cultural and academic events that were brought to their attention. So it's very much tip of the iceberg stuff, because it doesn't take into account self-censorship, and it also doesn't take into account some people that just don't want to publicize their, their victimhood of repression, if you like. So we have data on this topic, and the data is very clear that this is not a couple of individual cases that have nothing to do with each other, but this is a systematic campaign towards the silencing of pro-Palestinian speech. And it's very obvious, and if it's very obvious in reading that list, that you will see this pattern very clearly.
Has there been for you any one particular case that really was sort of a watershed moment where you thought, okay, something here has happened, or something here is happening which really requires close attention?
I mean, it's the sheer amount of them. It makes this question actually very hard to answer. There was the Frankfurt Buchmesse. That was in October 2023 at Ania Shibli. I think that was also very openly censorial. So it was. Can
you tell a bit of a story of what happened?
I mean, the way I remember it, and foggy memory here, because it's been a while, and there have been a few other cases since. But the way I remember is she was supposed to get a prize, and she didn't, because of who she is, just very simply. And there have been many other cases like that. I think what made the most headlines was February 2025. Francesca Albanese, what you've mentioned, her visit to Munich and Berlin, with the cancellation of her talks at the LMU in Munich and the Freie Universität here in Berlin, including other events that were attached to it that also were either moved, cancelled, or done differently, because it was there was this kind of coordinated campaign that there was political pressure, so open political pressure from politicians in the Senate, that politicians that have the power to, that made actual open threats in the newspapers. There were the media campaign itself. There were phone calls from different parties that applied actual real pressure on these venues, etc., etc. So we've seen and heard kind of in those few days. I was in one of the events, so I saw it up close, so we could see kind of what happens when that whole machine works together, because it also comes, and I come back to this because it's really the most visible aspect, but it also comes with the fact that every event that she then did was accompanied by 200 policemen in riot gear.
Yeah.
It's when you see that in front of your eyes, it's absolutely crazy. Of which they always insisted on sitting in the room,
which is absolutely incredible, because I mean, you do have, besides the sheer optics of it, you have something that quite clearly speaks intimidation. There is no other way to read a lecture. I mean, with 200 or with 100, or I think here in Jungwelt, here in Alexanderplatz, were probably about like 50 policemen in the room, but or 30 or something like that, but fully.
Yeah. No, what happened was, it's crazy, and the only thing left to do is laugh about it. But the thing was, what they said was, we need to have presence in the room, and they were told, but then why don't you just sit in your van and watch the live stream, and you'll hear every single word that is said? And they said, no, we have to be in the room, not because only of what is said in the podium, but because of what is said in the audience. So they had, I think, five of them sat there, and one of them was with the translator from Arabic to German, so that they could really monitor the things that were being said in the room. It's completely insane. I don't really.
There was, I mean, in Berlin, we have been through now a couple of cycles, right? I mean, not only Arabic was banned during street demonstrations. Had a friend who dared to go out, another friend, and shout falafel during the demonstration. But at some point, we also had a ban on Irish. You could not say words in Irish during demonstrations.
Yeah, so what happened is they basically banned everything except for German and English. and they did that because they didn't have the will nor the capacity to provide kind of translators for their kind of police work.
It's really remarkable that, I mean, you know, I don't think that you don't even need to begin to ask the question about freedom of expression the moment you're monitoring entire language groups. It's really
it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And the next, so after this event at Junge Welt, the next day she was supposed to speak at the Freie Universität, and that, of course, as we all know, was forced to be cancelled, and it was moved to Boom, which is in Kreuzberg. And I was driving by car, and I kind of got lost on the way. I don't know why. I must have been a little kind of absent-minded. And then I just saw these huge police vans, and I just followed them. And of course, they were all going there again. 200 policemen in riot gear. Again, 5 of them, or 4 of them, or 6 of them in the hall. And what's even more astounding is that students at the Freie Universität had organized the room to watch the live stream. So they were just basically doing kind of, we're putting up a screen and we're going to sit here and watch this. And the police was there as well. They sent in police with riot gear into the Freie Universität. They stood there in a line in front. So like a complete intimidation act.
I mean, this is, I think, that the elephant or the far right beast in the room remains essentially the Berlin mayor, right? The Berlin City Hall.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it's become also quite clear that this is an issue that is also specific to Berlin, but not only. So it's beyond Berlin, but in Berlin you see its most kind of violent manifestations. And that has to do, it has to do with Berlin having the largest Palestinian community in Europe. It has to do with the fact that we have, many people from different parts of the world, but mainly from Arab countries. That's what. But
we also have a specifically very, very, very reactionary government.
Yeah, but I think they were beating up people before this government too. That's what I mean. Like, I think the escalation is there. I mean, it's very clearly there. The escalation is there, and it's not an unwanted outcome. It's very much a wanted outcome.
Let me just, in the interest of time, because we have 5 minutes left before you have to jet off. What do you see ahead? I mean, in terms of Germany and its supposed values, but I think that mostly about life, the day to day, as somebody who is involved in basically the cultural life of the city and the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a very pessimistic person, so this is maybe something to say in advance before I say what I say. But this is not going anywhere near the right direction, just to put it mildly. Everything we're seeing is, for me, a symptom of kind of creeping fascism coming into more and more visible areas. And I think I don't think it's melodramatic to claim that this is kind of the 1932 moment, if you like, the moment where we can still actually do something, even if it's very late, but we can still actually do something about this. But we are not willing to do it. So there's a clear unwillingness to really take the step and do what's necessary to stop.
What do you think that step would be? I mean, what do you think would actually make?
I really believe this might be naive, but I really believe it really has to do with the question of Palestine. I think that the government has to be forced into a 180-degree change of policy. And that really will not happen by itself, and only then will we really see if this can have any effect also internally, because I think that's really at the root of the question. And that might be me being naive. It might be a different problem entirely, but I really think that question is very central to the way Germany also treats people inside Germany. I don't know if that.
No, I think that was perfectly disheartening, because I also have the sense that nothing really in the public or in the political system is changing, or looks like it's going to be changing. In any case, Michael, thank you very much for the time. I really do appreciate it. Obviously, the
Thanks for having
doors
me.
are open.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, let's hope for the best and prepare for whatever else.
Yeah.
We
This was
have
a
coming.
very suitably depressing 40 minutes that we spent.
There we go. We can do it again anytime.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Have a good
All
day.
right. Bye-bye. Bye.